Dr. Ginny Delahaye. Would you give her a hand? Please come on. She's also known as Dr. J. So, question, do you play basketball? Jenny Delahaye has served as Vice President of Education of Monterey Bay Aquarium since 2021. She has led the aquarium's education division and its initiatives, which include teen programs, school programs, teacher development programs, and a distance learning with a renewed dedication to partnering with coastal communities around Monterey Bay. Ginny Delahaye has 25 years of experience leading individuals, groups, learning experiences, multiple methodologies. Ginny has lived her experience, and in equity and inclusion, she believes that this is very, very important, and she embraces inclusivity and openness to create bridges of understanding. Can we give her another hand, please? For all the wonderful work.
Buenas tardes, good afternoon. Shiva Uswe. Shiva Uswe is the language of my ancestors. I am mestiza, which means I have many mixtures, but we had a oral tradition in my family that we were indigenous. But as many of those that are Latinos know that our indigeneity has been erased and destroyed. And so when my whole family did a whole 23andMe, the DNA, and it confirmed that we were actually half indigenous. And Colombia, where I'm originally from, is reclaiming a lot of our indigeneity, and my cousin is doing a lot of work. And my people are the Muisca, the Chichas of Bogotá, Colombia. So I welcome you in both the language of my ancestors, indigenous ancestors of South America, in the ancestors of Europe, buenas tardes. And I also want to just take a moment to acknowledge the peoples that whose lands we are on. So I want to introduce you to the land and water acknowledgement that we have at the Monterey Bay Aquarium. Let's see, here we go, let's try that. All right, and we really want to walk away from this being a transactional, performative aspect of the work. So I'm going to invite you to bring in your ancestors today, whoever they may be, wherever they may come, to sit with you here in this moment. Take a moment to acknowledge the people of this land, past, present, and future. Thank them for the work that they are doing and that they have done. And I'm just going to let you honor the ancestors of this land and the people of this land in the way you feel comfortable for a few moments. I did play basketball very poorly. I went to an all-over Catholic school, and they would put me in whenever they needed someone beat up under the basket. So when I engage in this kind of battle, that's the kind of person you're going to get. I was fortunate enough to be invited here today to talk a little bit about how I see when equity is done well, what will that look like in the future? And I am a firm believer in the Iroquois belief that you can't know what the future will look like until you look into your past, right? And acknowledge your past and bring it to the present. So I know that you've been working with Dr. McKibben's earlier today to learn a little bit more about the past that we have here on the peninsula, the ready for looking at and exploring and asking questions to make a new future. So I want to tell you a little bit about my past. Like I said, I was born in Bogotá, Colombia. If you've watched the movie Encanto, that is my family. And one of the things that I I took my my white English-only speaking friend, best friend, to Colombia with me for my 40th many years ago. And she was surprised to see at the range of colors that happen in Colombia. And that is how you saw it in Encanto. That is my family, that is how we are, that's how we present. And so when we talk and refer to ourselves from Colombia, we do call ourselves the land of enchantment, la tierra del encanto. And it's one of the few places on earth that has mountains, oceans, llanos, prairies, every aspect in between. And I come from these two wonderful people, my father, who is no longer with us, and my lovely mom, Federico and Miriam. And my father was born in Barranquilla, Colombia, which is on the coast of Colombia. And the people that are from this area, they're part of the Diano, actually closely related to Puerto Ricans, the indigenous people of Puerto Rico. And so many of them are tall, slender, and that was my dad. And he grew up around ocean, water, and swimming. My mother, on the other hand, was born in Bogota, which is a city, one of the largest cities in the world, surrounded by volcanoes. It is rich in indigeneity. It is rich in a lot of Spanish conquest. It is rich in a lot of different cultures. And so when I talk about the ocean, my mom, who grew up in this urban environment, has no clue what the heck I'm talking about. And I, on the other hand, while I was born there, grew up in this area. Anyone else here from the East Coast? Great. Anyone from New Jersey? Oh, where are you from in New Jersey? Where is it? Monmouth County? Oh yeah, I was not, that's not, your neighborhood is nice, my neighborhood. Just to give you an idea, when I was growing up, this is called Paterson, New Jersey, and it was called as Little New York because that's the kind of place that it is. For those of you that, and I looking around, I'm like, there are some people my generation, so that they'll hear it. But if you remember that Morgan Freeman movie where he was a principal at a high school, Seaside High, that was my town. That's where I grew up. And so, you know, when I hear sweet little kids out here talking about the city and the hood, I'm like, you don't know. But this is where I had the luxury of growing up, and I was so grateful that I did. It was hard, and it was wonderful, and I can never be so more grateful for the things that I learned while I was there. The beginning of my life, I spent a chunk of time in this building. At the time, there were no green trains around that building, but I'm glad to see that it's changed. Lots of interesting things happened. As it was down the street, there was a bodega that it felt as a little 5-year-old trying to walk to the bodega to get something from my mom. Felt like the biggest adventure on this planet. And my idea of water growing up was this. Did anyone else here play fire hydrants? Oh, yes! I tell you, my white husband has no clue what the heck I'm talking about. He's like, what do you mean you open fire hydrants? I go, well, we did, but sometimes the fire department was nice and they would come and open it for us. But this was the only way that we had water, sometimes in the heat of the summer, right? And I thought I was swimming when I was moving like this in the gutter. You know, I mean, I didn't care what was swimming by me, but I was swimming. And I didn't learn to really officially swim till I was 32 here at PG High School. Yeah, and here I had been dreaming about becoming a marine biologist, you know. I had grown up watching Jacques Cousteau on TV. Yeah, I'm dating myself, I know it. On the little screen, Sundays, that's when it would happen. You would gather it, and maybe Friday was wrestling, Saturday, you know, maybe on Saturday we watched the wonderful Chinese theater, and then Sunday was Jacques Cousteau, the natural history stuff. And so I watched this, and then I saw freshwater dolphins, and I was hooked. I was like, Mom, Dad, cuando yo crezca, yo voy a hacer eso. When I grow up, I'm going to do that. And they looked at me like I was on something. And they were like, Mija, how are you going to do that? Because they were working in factories. They had no idea how to help me do that. But I knew, I was hooked. And when I got to eventually do stuff in the ocean, I realized that there were not a lot of people like me that learned to love the ocean through TV. But I know they're there. They just aren't there now, but they're getting there, and that's the whole point. So I know that I can't look forward without looking back and held in gratitude for my family, for the people that got me here, for the people that helped me get here, whether we connected by blood. I will always be grateful for the ability to have an anchor child here, because that's the only way we became legal here in the United States. President Carter, may or may not like him, but I love him because he granted us amnesty. I'm grateful for the people that eventually taught me English, because I didn't know English very well. I'm grateful for the people that have brought me to the place that I'm at. And so when I look forward, I can't help but not look back. And it's an important thing that we need to do, because as we look back, there are things that we may or may not be proud of. There may be things that we hold with some shame, with some anger, with some deep resentment. But we need to move through that in order to move forward. My good friend Corey Evan Leak, who is the DEI director of the aquarium, he and I were having a conversation this week about me saying something like, and Stacy, you were there when I said it at the meeting, that I don't want our kids to have to go through what we were having a meeting with the Village Project. I don't want them to go through what I see you too. So I don't want them to go through what I went through. Corey was like, well, why not? We learned so much from it. There's enough out there for them to challenge. They don't need to be going through, like, when you walk in, am I going to be accepted? Am I not going to be accepted? Are they going to look at me such a way? Are they going to think about? They don't need to go through that. There's a lot of other problems that they don't need to be going through. The oppression, the systems of oppression that I faced growing up. And so when I look back, I look with anger, resentment, and I move through water. I learned that from Maisha T. Hill this week. I move through it like water, because I know there's healing power in that conflict, in that pain. And if I learn with that, then I can move forward for the future. So I learned about this Vemijidi statement about how it is that we're going to be looking forward. What is it that we are required to do? And one of the things that they ask are asking questions about who's going to be responsible, because the fact of the matter is, I can't do it all alone. What our current system tells us is that you can only do this if you're the one person. What our ancestors have told us, whether you're mestizo, you're black, you're white, is that you can't do it alone. You have to do it together with others. You have to go ahead and ask the question, who's going to do this while I do that? We as women, those of us that are women and femme presenting, have been told in the world that you have to be everything. And we hear that for the women, but the men feel it just as powerful, right? They have to be everything. Why? Why can't we have multiple people hold us? Why can't it be everyone in community? So these are the questions that they ask about who is going to do what, where, when. Who's going to protect us? Who's going to nurture us? Who's going to guide us? Who's going to lead and who's going to follow? And when are we going to switch those places? And I thought these were powerful questions that we could sit with today as we look to the future, as we put children on our shoulders and they can put people on their shoulders as we move forward. Because the fact is we're standing on thousands of other shoulders behind us. My current work, when I came back to the aquarium, I actually started the aquarium back in 1998. And I was there for 13 years, and I hit what I consider, what I now hear is a concrete ceiling for women of color. It's not a glass ceiling, because we can see it. We can see it and we're feeling it. But I love for that, because I realized that I was talking about my lived experience, and even though I had a master's degree, people were telling me I couldn't really speak unless I had a PhD. So I went and got my PhD. And I'm so grateful for that, because You know, I have lived in Jersey, right outside New York City, where, you know, racism is blatant and you just yell at each other and you get it over with. I lived in the South where you see racism and you're like, that's how it is. But I've never experienced real racism until I went to Portland, Oregon and experienced liberal racism at its finest. So, coming back, I discovered that I really wanted, they asked me to come back, and I said, I'm not coming back unless I'm my full self. Unless I can come in talking like I talk, because I know I was keeping that from my 13 years there. I'm going to come in and be that feisty Latina that people are like, there she comes again. But I knew that I had to do it that way because the future of where I'm going cannot be done without coastal communities of color. Cannot be done without coastal communities of color. Monterey, PG, Carmel, they'll be fine. But they won't be fine if they don't include Seaside, Marina, Castro, and you know why? Because you won't be able to look across your partner and your neighbor and be like, I got you. Because if we don't look at each other now, that problem's only going to exacerbate. So I came back knowing that this is the work that I need to do for the next generation. I have to bring up leaders. I don't care what color you are. I do care about your background. I want you to bring it all in with you. But we need to be able to look at each other and be real with each other. So the work that we're doing is not something that's easy. I've heard it just in the limited time that I was here. I know Dr. McKeown's probably talked about it. I'm 100% sure Derek's talked about it. It cannot be done without the heart, the mind, honestly, your soul. We are facing a soul starvation, a starving of souls in our generation and the generation of kids that we have coming in. This next generation of kids, I cannot tell you what amazing individuals they are. They inspire me day in, day out. Don't get me wrong, I want to hit them upside the head every once in a while when they say dumb things. But man, the souls that we have coming on this planet right now, they're gifts. They're gifts to us. And they deserve better from us that are older than them. They deserve us to fix our crap so that they can move forward in the world they need to change, because we're leaving them with a lot of crap. So we got to do this with our heart and our mind, our ancestors, our souls, because there's a lot of work to be done. And again, we cannot do it alone. We must do it in community. We can only heal in community. Racism and other structures of oppression were created in community. The only way to heal out of it is in community. So, how do we do this work? I know, I had to throw a couple of aquarium pictures in there. You know I had to. You know the interesting thing about this particular animal? It's called a sea bass. So, believe it or not, this is kind of a baby. I know, big animal, tasty too. So, am I wrong? How many people like sea bass? There we're talking, right there. That's right. The older they get, the more spots they get. It's not about size with them, it's about spots. So any of us that are feeling those little, new spots that are coming out, means you're getting better looking. So, how do we do it? We need to tend to relationships. So, this week, and I'm going to be totally authentic and real and super vulnerable, I was in the meeting with the Village Project at the aquarium, and we've been really having a deep discussion about how to interact best with the Village Project. We have very differing opinions across the whole organization. And me and my sincere desire to make sure that people were hearing some of the pearls that one of the Village Project people, a young black man, was talking. I re-articulated his words in ways that I really was hoping the white people and non-blacks would hear it. My sweet, kind, generous friend, black man Corey Lee, came out and said, Sister, I know what you were trying to do, but don't speak for Black people. Ooh, that hurt. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, here I am trying to do the soul work. Here I am trying to, like, do the best I can and make sure to elevate Black voices, and I was speaking for them. And I was like, damn! And so I gotta say, like, I got in the car, and Corey told me that. He told me, because, you know, and then when you get to know Corey Lee, which I do hope you all get to know him, he has the most dulcet voice. He goes, now I want to talk about equity. Everyone's gonna love equity and diversity. He has this nice, deep, sultry voice. And he says, sister, I know you meant well, but you spoke for Black people. Don't do that. And I was like, oh. And I felt shame. I mean, I'm sure many of you have been in that. All of us are human. We've been in those places where we stepped into it unwittingly. And I was like, you're right, Corey. I didn't mean it that way, but I do acknowledge the impact. I felt the shame. I moved through it like water, thanks to my HT Hill teaching me that. And I said, I so appreciate you telling me, hermano. Thank you for sharing that with me, and I'll do better. I really don't share that to be clapped at, but just to tell you that the work is continual. I've been doing this equity work, this DEI work, before it was called multicultural education, or when it was called international, interrelational. I mean, it was called everything else what it is now, and I'm sure in 5 years it'll be called something else. So I've been doing this work for a long time, and I tell you, I am humbled on the constant. And I'm grateful for people that step in. So he tended to that relationship to make sure that I was tending to harm. So people who were here from the Village Project, I am sorry if I caused harm. I went to my Black peers, teams, I apologize for the harm, the impact that was. I understand that in my generation, code switching, when I finally got to own it, felt real good and authentic. And now this next generation feels it's inauthentic. And I gotta respect that and acknowledge it. So you gotta tend to the harm. And you know, sometimes it's immediate and sometimes it takes years, but you gotta tend to it. Because if you don't tend to the harm you've impacted, the hole you're making yourself persists and just gets bigger and envelops others around you. We create places for health and wholeness. One of the things that we're working at in education at the aquarium is recognizing that the youth that are coming in are not just coming in to deal with environmental issues or to get into schools or to make more money. No, that's not the only thing they're tending to. They're tending to their mental health. They're tending to that soul sickness that I was talking about. So we are working hard, we're still beginning, but we're beginning to tend to create emotional, psychological safety and teach resiliency. It doesn't look easy, and it means I'm going to have to lean into my community, brothers and sisters, to help me with that. Because I'm an environmental educator, I'm a scientist, I'm a social scientist. I may know a little bit about it, but I don't know what that means culturally for a Black, Asian, Pacific Islander, Southeast Asian. I don't know what that means for that child. I need community to help me grow and tend to this health and wholeness. The whole body, the whole mind, the whole heart, the whole soul. One of the things that I'm also really leaning into, and that, again, my wonderful hermana Corey Evan Leek has taught me, continues to teach me about this, is about teaching our stories. I think stories is one thing that we have been taught to forget. If you're a Spanish speaker, you know that we have a lot of dichos, a lot of statements. You know, so I'm always like, in my family, my married family, my husband's white, my stepchildren white, you know, I'm throwing out these dichos all the time. I'm like, nadie aprende por consejo. No one learns through advice. And you hear my sweet little stepchildren, which are now actually grown, they're no longer little, but they go, nadie aprende por consejo, Jenny. And I'm like, you're right, nadie aprende por consejo. I don't care that they massacre it. They're trying, but they know that the dichos are there. And those dichos come from our stories, right? They come from the stories that our grandmothers told us, that their grandmothers told them. And so we need to teach each other our stories, because it's only in that that we really start learning the richness of America. We have forgotten that we are a mixed people. We really think that this racial construct that was created to separate us is true, when we know it isn't. When you may present white, but we know you're a Heinz. Come on now. I mean, you've been told to hide all these different things about you. And so I tell my husband, we go to the Scottish games, we eat English, not good food, and we go and enjoy the French aspects of his life. Yeah, my husband once turned to me, we were watching a video, and I don't remember what the video was about. This is my second marriage, and when we got married, oh, God love my husband, he is so wonderful. I turned to him when he got married and I said, listen, I'm really going to be doing this racial equity healing work for the rest of my life. Are you on board, tall white man? And God love him, he went and did his own work, and he came back and he said, I'm with you. And so we were watching the show, and something came on about how casseroles are a white American thing. And he looked at me and he said, you mean all this time you make casseroles, that's for me? I go, you think Colombians are making casseroles? We arroz, frijoles, we papas. I don't know what you're talking about with this casserole. Yes, only for you, my friend, and I've learned to love it. So we teach each other the stories. We teach each other how those casseroles came to be. I'll teach you how sancocho is made and how sancocho came from the enslavers trying to give food to all the indigenous and black people and trying to feed them all day. That's the food of my country and my heritage. But you won't know that until I tell you my story and you sit, listen with curiosity. So, why is this working for him? When George Floyd was murdered, the aquarium had a big reckoning moment. As a white privileged organization sitting on the peninsula, we had to really come to terms with, were we going to really step into this work, or were we going to have to just kind of melt into the night, just kind of lay low? God loved Julie Packard. She didn't come at it overnight, but she came to it quick. Her two daughters were the ones that really pushed her over the edge. And Julie did her work. You know, for a woman that is 76 years old, that's not easy to be learning something brand new overnight. It wasn't brand new, but it was new enough for her to check her privilege. I mean, she's always recognized she's had privilege with a lot of money with the name Packard behind it. She's not acknowledged it. But to acknowledge her race, her gender, and what that's played in systems of oppression, that's a whole other level. And so we started working, and this is what she came with. And she really, really recommends that the only way we can move forward with ocean conservation is with diversity, is with equity, is with inclusion. So, the reason I do this work is for this little 5-year-old. This was my first American party in the United States. I was so excited. So for those of you that also lived in poverty, you'll get this. In my family, we were so poor that we would only celebrate, have celebrations every 5 years. So it was 5, 10, 15, 20, you know. And maybe we would have maybe a cake in the years in between. So this is my 5, it's a big deal. It's a year I also got baptized here. I was a heathen before that. But I do it for this little girl that was dreaming forward. I do it for this little girl. She's in 2nd grade here in this picture, and she was diagnosed with or she wasn't diagnosed. She was told she had a learning disability because she didn't speak English well. And it was this really super, super mean 2nd grade teacher that looked at me and said, "You're not dumb." I was like, "Oh, thanks. I don't know what that word means, but okay." And she took me under her wing and taught me to read, and by the end of 2nd grade, I was teaching reading at a 5th grade level. This talking mean teacher. I do it for the 16-year-old. Yes, look at that hair, right? Oh yeah, it's all coming back. I know. How much hairspray? Yeah, a lot. Always over there, right there, friend. I do it for the 16-year-old who is thinking about wanting to be a marine biologist and not knowing how to do it. I do it for this person. This is me early on, Young Women in Science, second year into the program. I created this program for girls like me who didn't know how to do marine science or wanted to do it. They were bilingual, they were bicultural. How the heck do you tell your parents, I want to go and do this for a week when they're counting on you to take care of your siblings while they're at work? How do you do that? Well, it started back in 1999, and I'm glad to know that we have new permutations of this. All of these kids are in their 30s, by the way. I know I look fantastic now, but that's true. But I do it for that educator that I now have educators of that age working with me now that were used to be my students. I do it because the future of otters, the future of our sharks, the future that we have of our charismatic megafauna are not going to be possible without youth that think differently than the people doing the work today. Without the youth coming in with a different lived experience, we won't get at it. And we need every possible person to make the changes happen. I do it for these animals that are fantastically, like our invertebrates are the ones that people don't often think about, but are the biggest aspect of the oceans that we have out there. And then when you see them, you're like mystified, and you thank the universe, the goddess, the God, whoever you think of, thank you for these amazing animals that teach me how this world is so special. I do it for the wonder when I see you across the aquarium, like walking around and you see people and they're literally in awe of what they're seeing in front of them. When I see kids seeing each other in awe, when I see adults finally discovering something wonderful and similar in someone that looks completely different than them, that's the reason we need to do it. I do it for the kids that don't see themselves as scientists yet. This picture was 20 years ago. And so I'm doing it for the kids that when they get there, and maybe their community says, we don't swim. They say, yes, we do. These are Head Start kids that we've been working now for close to 25 years. And I do it for them so that when they come to the aquarium, they know what it's like, that they're welcome. You know, their parents are telling them, no toques, no corras, don't run, don't touch. But I'm saying, run, touch. Okay, don't climb that, that's not good. But I'm encouraging you to be here and be you and bring all of you. I do it for the kids that are seeing the future in a different way than we've ever seen it. I mean, the kids that come and what they think about, oh my gosh, it fills me with joy and just satisfaction every day of my life. You know, I had a choice of coming back to the aquarium or continue to do consulting work in this diversity, equity, and inclusion field. And for a while there, we were making money. But I came back to do this for this reason, because this is my future right here. I do it because of kids like this. This picture is about 15 years old. The kid in the middle, his name I'm spacing on, found a shark tag in Hawaii. So this is where he's from. He's originally from Hawaii on the Big Island. And he found out that the tag came from the Monterey Bay Aquarium. He had tagged a shark. And so he contacted Monterey Bay Aquarium. This is actually Chris Nolan, who is the CEO of the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute. And he came, we brought him over from Hawaii with his mom, and he learned all about sharks. And he just talk about making dreams, you know. But something he found on the beach was the thing that inspired him. So I do it for these kids that were my students and are now colleagues of mine. The one on the left works at the city of Watsonville. The one on the far right, She's actually the manager of sustainability at the Monterey Bay Aquarium. Do it for these people. These are my family back east. Super conservative, evangelical. I don't know how they do what they do, but they do. We don't see eye to eye, but I do it for them. I do it for this family, my family on the West Coast. And we're all wearing white, but it's hard to see. My family ranges in all different colors. But I definitely, the white people are on the right side, that's for reals. And that's my married family, the family that I've adopted into my life, that have taught me things about whiteness that I had no idea about. And then my family. I do it for these people, because this is my future. This is the way I'm pointing. It's all those kids. If I don't fix what's happening here, I can't fix the future for the kids. 7 generations from now, as our Iroquois brethren have taught us. I do it for this, and I do it for those of you that are here with me. I'm so grateful I am no longer alone. I'm so grateful that Derek and BLAAC has convened this group of people to show us that we're not alone, and that we can hold hands while we may not agree with each other, but look at each other and know that what we want is the best for all of us, and especially our kids. So with that, I leave it to you. Thank you. That's it. Some of us did not have the internet at that time, and so we had to use like magazines, you know. So I used a couple magazines, didn't work out. So I called my mother-in-law, she sent me a bunch of recipes, and that really helped. But yeah, the internet's still your best friend these days. How did we do without it? I don't even know. Card catalog, y'all remember what I'm talking about most of it?
Before she died, I got to know Jenny Losavano. And she was a champion of the Monterey Bay Aquarium. And she had planned a commemorative walk in memory of the burning of the Chinese village. Yes. And I understand that you, in her honor, you named a penguin after her. Could you talk about that?
Yes, thank you for asking that question. As we've continued this, a specific group has started recognizing and starting to make amends for all the years of harm with what they were trying to do. The Zapato family in particular has honored us with the ability to go ahead and take Jenny's name, and we did name one of our penguins, one that hatched on exhibit, and renamed it for her. The Zapato family was there when we released the chick onto exhibit. It's now a full-fledged penguin. So if you want to go there, you can actually go and look for a name tag, and you can see her name right there on her. So thank you for asking that. And we're now having an annual festival event commemorating what the Pacific, the AAPI group has done here on the peninsula. So thank you for that. Yes.
I just wanted to acknowledge what you're doing for the sensitivity training with the indigenous people.
Thank you.
I did.
Yes, Auntie, you were there.
Yeah, I was asked to come and help prepare the indigenous luncheon for the aquarium, and I really like gave you some words.
Yes.
For reaching out to the program.
So our wonderful auntie here, whose name I'm spacing on, I apologize, I can't remember. Marianne, that's what I thought, thank you. Was one of the wonderful elders that came and has taught us about our indigenous past here in the peninsula. The aquarium is going through a decolonization process. We're looking at our practices, policies, and procedures to try to decolonize them. Auntie Marianne was like one of the people that came, taught us about the ways it fed us some delicious food. It wasn't casserole. And and we are still in a wonderful journey for that. We are doing so much work here, and I'm grateful to you and to all the elders who humbly and graciously give us of your knowledge and your stories. So thank you for that.
Thank you. I would like to speak on behalf of the Chumash people that they are looking at doing what Monterey has done
Wonderful. The Shumash Sanctuary down south. Yes, we're working also with them. Thank you for that. Yes, ma'am.
I actually have 2 questions. So, when I was young, I wanted to work to be a marine biologist and international classes, but it wasn't enough because my family couldn't make a statement. And ended up as a shark, so it worked out. But one, I wanted to know what you guys think about that purple sea otter swimming surfboard. And 2, how can we help the youth programs at the aquarium?
Oh my gosh, thank you for those questions. So, first of all, I want to say, how many people here dreamt of being marine biologists sometime in their life? You're not alone. I got to tell you, at least like half the women I meet say, I want to study dolphins too. And I'm like, I know, me too, but that didn't happen. That's okay. So you're not alone, yes. What are we doing about the sea otter stealing surfboards? Yeah, let me just, I think we should call the sheriff. I do think there's a jurisdiction issue. That's what we're claiming. We're claiming private jurisdiction of the city. So if that's what you want to stick with, sheriff, I'm with you on that. The last thing, how can we help? In addition to helping BLAAC, in addition to helping the Village Project and other community groups, this year we were lucky enough to go ahead and offer the first ever 4-year scholarship for 2 local youth here. And I'm going to say it here because I can say it now before they start coming down about the 11th Court mandate about how you can't have all this other. For youth of color to go to 4 years at CSU on the aquarium. Continue that program, and they don't have to do marine science. One of them is a computer scientist, and the other one's a policy major. So this is not about creating marine scientists. This is about creating citizens that have the ocean and love of nature as part of their lives. So anything like that, but honestly, the biggest thing we could do is support the Village Project, Boys and Girls Club, BLAAC, people doing the work in the community. That's really what I think would be great. If you want to volunteer, we can talk. All right, thank you so very much. I so appreciate it.
Thank you.